Good evening, Ian Storey-Moore. Storey-Moore, my lord, or to give him his proper name, Ian Storey-Moore. What a player! How are you, sir? Welcome to Game of My
Good
Life.
evening. Yeah, nice to speak to you again, Gabby. Trust you're keeping safe and well.
Absolutely. We're going to take a trip down memory lane, Ian, and we're going to remember that iconic game that you played on Saturday, the 8th of April in 1967, quarter final of the FA Cup against Holders Everton. You won 3-2 in front of a crowd of 47,510. Scored a fantastic hat-trick. Last minute of the game, your winning goal. So we're going to focus on that, but we're going to have a look at some of the things around at that time, and we're going to test your memory and see if you can remember your teammates and the Everton
I can.
side. So first and foremostly, let's talk about that game before the other stuff. Jim Finney was the referee. He was an international referee. Any memories of Jim?
Not particularly, to be honest with you. You know, I think particularly in those days, they're sort of, they haven't got the profile that they've got now, have they really? You know, they're very unassuming, decent people, that just refereed the game, and whatever decision they gave, you more or less accepted in those days. There's no ranting and raving and chasing the referee around like they do now, and at 5 or 6 plays diving on them. I think some of the referees, I think that the treatment they get is absolutely disgraceful now, and they can't accept decisions now. But when we played, it was a penalty. It was a penalty. You just got on with it, didn't you?
Absolutely, I agree. Referees, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, referees should be seen and not heard. So go and officiate, absolutely. And there was referees that you could talk to, could communicate with, and they wasn't so arrogant. Let's start with the lineup that day. What was the Forest lineup from your memory?
We played a 4-4-2 shape. So in goal was the brilliant Peter Grummett. Yeah, very agile, great shot stop, brilliant shot stopper actually. Probably lacked a little bit of stature, Peter, but great goalkeeper. Yeah. Peter Hindy at right back, strong as an ox. Terry Hennessy, very talented, technically very good at right-sided centre-half, and the stalwart of the football club at the time, Bob McKinley. I think he played about over 700 games for Forest. Been a wonderful player for the club. At left back, John Winfield, tall, elegant sort of player. Wide right was Barry Lyons, played the ball from Rotherham. I think he might have started I think he's a York lad actually, but started his career at Rotherham. I think they paid about 40,000. Very industrious sort of player, worked the flank relentlessly all the game. Wonderful boy. John Browne in the middle of the park, a very talented technical player who sort of stitched things together in the middle of the park for us. Beside him was Henry Newton, who was a massive help to us. Henry was a really good player. He was very strong, very committed, had great energy, didn't shirk any tackles. He was a really, when Henry didn't play, we missed him immensely, and he was hell of a, to play alongside him. He helped me immensely, Henry. So wonderful guy. Still see him now. Great guy and a wonderful player. Myself, wide left, and through the centre, Joe Baker, wonderful centre forward, quick as lightning. Score goals out of nothing. Alongside him was the big Frank Wigler, who had a tremendous game that day, which we'll no doubt talk to in the next couple of minutes about that game. And he was as strong as an ox. Joe and Frank had a great empathy together and made a good twosome.
And Wignall was an England international player as well, wasn't he?
He was, Frank. Yeah, he came from Everton. And, it's a real handful, Frank. Wasn't the quickest, Frank, but he's very strong in possession. He could head the ball. I mean, I got quite a number of goals off Frank, just sort of balls into the box, and Frank would get his head to it. It sort of would drop to me, and, just smash it in. But and Joe Baker as well. I mean, Joe used to feed off Frank. And, he's a really fine asset to have in the team, Frank. A real handful.
And Bob McKinley, he was the only surviving member of the 1959 Cup-winning team.
That's correct. Yeah, he was. Bob. He was. Yeah.
The Everton team that day was in goal ranking. who sadly recently passed away.
He did actually, yes, he did. Unfortunately, yeah.
The back four was Wright, Hurst, LeBone, and Wilson.
Yeah, Ray Wilson. Yeah, what a player he was, Ray. Yeah. Oh, I tell you what, in those days, before you go through the team, had some excellent players, a really good side.
They were, because they were cup winners in '66. They beat Terry Curran.
Was it Ball, Kendall and Harvey? What a midfield trio they were. Fantastic players.
That day it was Harvey, Ball, and Browne.
Didn't he? Who did play then?
Kendall didn't play that day.
Oh, did he not play that day?
No,
Was he injured? Was he?
I'm not sure. I didn't look that. Yeah. I looked at that because I thought, surely it must be Harvey, Ball, and Kendall.
Yeah, it always was, wasn't it? Yeah. Do you know? Yes, Sandy Browne, he played, didn't he? That's right. Yeah,
he did. Sandy Browne.
Just crack on recollection. Yeah, blind. I didn't remember that, Gabby. Yeah, well done.
And then the three up front, there was Alex Young, fantastic Scottish international, Jimmy Husband, and Jimmy Morrison.
Jimmy scored the 2 goals for them, didn't he?
And sub was Temple. Sub for you was Alan Hinton. Alan saw a little bit more of the game than Temple did for Everton.
Did he? Yeah,
because you did have an injury, didn't you, earlier on?
Absolutely. Well, it was Joe Baker.
Yes.
He was a massive miss, Gabby. Absolutely a massive miss. Brian and Rowan, the terminology did him. I think he probably did do him, that day. It was a late and I'm sure Brian didn't mean it, but it was a bit of a nasty tackle. And to be honest, Gabby, Joe was never the same player after that. It was a really bad injury. I remember coming into the treatment room next day because I was a little knock myself, and his leg from his foot right up to the top of his side was completely black. It was a horrendous injury, and he was never the same Joe again. But I'm sure that if Joe had stayed fit that season, we would have won something. We would have won a cup of the league. It was a big miss.
Because Forest were a fantastic side.
They were.
That was a 66-67 season.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that was the highest league position. Of course, when Brian Clough took over the reins at Nottingham Forest, they won the league and won the European Cup twice.
Yeah,
but that was the greatest ever season up to that date. You finished second in the league to Manchester United, and you got to the semi-final of the FA Cup. A case of if only. If Joe would have stayed injury-free, you could have won the double.
Spot I'm sure he would have won something because he was, I think that season, I got about 25 goals. Joe got about 18. So he was a big miss, no doubt about it. Absolutely. No, a really good player, Joe. Quick as lightning.
And the form that Forest took into that game, you'd lost once in 5 months. So that was like 27 league and cup matches.
You'd only
lost once. You were really on a seriously good run. What's your memories of that game, going into that game? it was a huge game for Nottingham Forest.
Oh, yeah. The first thing that struck me when we ran out and the crowd, they even let young kids over the wall, the wall, prior to the ground. They wouldn't do that now because of safety first, but I can remember that they're letting the kids, sit in front of the wall. It was that busy, and the atmosphere was unbelievable. Yeah, it's probably the best atmosphere I've ever played in. Yeah, and the way the game swung and fro. First. We didn't play particularly well in the first half, to be honest with you, because I think it took us a bit to adjust to Joe Baker going off. I think, was it about half an hour when he went off, Gabby? I can't quite remember.
He certainly caught an injury really early, perhaps after about 9 or 10 minutes. And then he carried on, didn't he? He carried on and he tried to play on.
Yeah, nothing. He couldn't move hardly.
No, and he then had to come off, but it was
So I think we lost our impetus a bit through losing him, and it brought Alan in. I think I had to move into the middle. Certainly did at the start of the second half. So he was a massive loss, and he probably deserved to go in at half time 1-0 in front. So so we thought we've got a bit to do in the second half. We haven't played particularly well, but. Second half, and big Frank Whittle started to get into the game, started to cause lots of problems, Frank. And the first goal, I think he had a shot from about maybe 25, 30 yards, which Andy Rankin just parried back to me, which I stroked home. So that made it 1-1. Of course, that the crowd erupted then. Think we're back in the game, and we started to play a bit then. And I don't know how long it was afterwards. I scored again. Once again, Frank Wignall. He won a great header on the edge of their box and headed. Yeah, fortunately, I had the left foot strike into the bottom corner of the net. So that made it 2-1. And we're thinking, oh, we've done it. But unfortunately, I think it was about probably 5 minutes from the end, Jimmy Husband went down, got his second goal, equalised. And of course, the first thing that went through my mind was, oh, God, we've got to go and have a replay Everton next week, which would be a hell of a difficult game. So we probably need to win this now. And once again, it was the head of Frank Wignall did the trick. Long ball into the box from John Winfield, headed back across, and there was that Storey-Moore. First head, I think first chance. I think it hit Andy Rankin somehow. Came back to me. I think it might have it was a header. Probably he knocked it on the crossbar. Came back to me again. And another header, I think, which hit the crossbar. I think it came back to me again. Eventually put the ball. I think it was about 3 or 4 times. Until I got the ball into that. So it wasn't one of my rather fortuitous, to say the least, but I suppose it was exciting for the crowd watching it go and not in. Then people thought it was in, and then it wasn't. So it was rather an exciting climax to the game, Andy. Gabby, sorry.
Mm-hmm. And has there ever been a more exciting finish to a game at the City Ground? Because it was the 89th minute, and
was it really?
Yeah, I was watching it. You can watch it on.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times, black and white, isn't it?
Yeah,
it was a match of the day, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, Kenneth Wolstenholme was the
that's
commentator.
Correct. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
and the atmosphere just looked fantastic, and to score a winning goal in the 89th minute as Everton had just got back into the game, you're thinking, here we go, a replay, the elation. You must have felt as though you could jump over that crossbar that you hit.
Yeah, we certainly enjoyed ourselves that weekend. Had a couple of drinks after the game, and I think we went off to Skegness golfing on the Sunday. We got Johnny Carey took us away for a treat. Not as I'm a golfer, but we had a bit of a couple of drinks again while we were away, and back to square one we got back. But listen, I think it goes down as certainly one, if not the best, one of the best games I've ever seen at the City Ground over the years. I think, to be fair to them, I think one of the best games I ever saw personally after that was the Forest v Cologne game in the whatever they called it in those days, Champions League, Cup. Europa League, whatever, European Cup. Yeah, a great game that was, actually 3-3, and I was watching that game. It was fantastic to watch. So those 2 games, I would say, that would stick out with Forest fans, as probably the best 2 games I've seen at the City Ground.
Johnny Carey was the manager. What was he like as a manager, and what was he like going into the dressing room at half-time, a goal down? He'd had to rejig it and put you up front. And how did you feel about the dynamics of not playing in your usual accustomed wide position, but playing down the middle? But I look at you, and you're an ideal central striker as well as a wide player as well, Ian, aren't you?
Yeah, well, to be honest with you, I had, not particularly that season, but until Joe got injured, I think I finished the season off playing most of the time, through the mid with Frank Wignall. It didn't particularly bother me because I'd had a bit of experience, not particularly at Forest, but when I was growing up, I used to play, the old inside left position, centre forward at times. So I had, at lower levels, of course, played in different positions. I mean, when I first started, because of Alan Hinton was still in good form, when I was breaking through, I played quite a few games down the right-hand side. So, anywhere along the front line, I thought I was pretty comfortable with, actually, Gabby, playing anywhere, really. Johnny, reverting back to Johnny Carey, it was a very calm, measured, very, very nice man, a real gentleman, actually. He never got flustered, never got annoyed, really. He actually told you what he wanted to tell you, but in a measured, calm way. He didn't sort of explode like a lot of managers. You're not doing this, son, or, I want you to do this. But it was very calm, very measured, very quiet. I can't remember him ever coming and ranting and raving at half-time, Gabby. He was, come on, we've got to do better, except things like that. But no, a really nice guy, really, he was.
And of course, a former manager, of Everton Football Club and famously got the sack in the back of a taxi by his chairman, John Moores, who later went on to chairman Liverpool Football Club.
Did he really? I didn't realise
that. Yeah, you know, when people say taxi 4, that's the reference and why that expression became so prominent and famous.
Really?
Yeah, because Johnny Carey was sacked in the back of a black cab by John Moores as Everton manager.
Really? Was that naturally that was before he came to Forest, wasn't
it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a bit of revenge there on his old team.
Yeah, of course.
Everton.
Yeah, but you know, Johnny was such a nice man. He wouldn't think about revenge. I don't think he was that type of person, really. But yeah, very knowledgeable about the game. Of course, he'd been a great player himself, hadn't he? Really, and so you know, he took to managing like a duck to water. I mean, in those days, I mean, they didn't sit on the line like they do now. You know, in a technical area, they used to be sat in a stand with a collar and tie on. Or you know, it amuses me now. Gabby, if I may say this about the number of people that, you know, from the teams, you know, that are sat on the line with the manager. I mean, I cannot believe it. I mean, you know, had 2 physios, I don't know, 3 technical directors. It's unbelievable, isn't it? You know, in our days, there was the manager used to sit in the stand. There used to be the coach stroke trainer, what he wanted to call him, on the touch line with the physio and one sub. That was it in those days. I mean, now they're absolutely swarmed, aren't they? The benches with players and officials. God knows what everybody does. I just don't know.
I mean, that technical area is immense, and it has to be to accommodate the dugouts, because, as you say, in your day, the dugout was really quite small and compact. Now it's almost like an hotel, isn't it?
Yeah, they need Tesco's now, don't you, to put them all in?
Honestly, it's absolutely incredible. But
I just wonder what they all do. I really do. When you hear that some clubs have got a throwing coach, a free kick coach, 2 physios, two masseurs. Oh dear. What a totally different game now, isn't it?
I think it's money for old rope, and I think that they make these roles for people to undertake. But going back to your Johnny Carey and managers of yesteryear, you get a far better view of the game and how it's going on by sitting up there in the stand than sitting in the dugout, because you're just watching feet, you're watching the old pitch while you're up there. And let's be honest, players in your day actually knew what to do. They didn't really need to be coached on the pitch. These days, it strikes me some of these players don't know what they're doing, and they have to be coached on the pitch. They even give them pieces of paper to go onto the pitch and pass it around with instructions. Wasn't like that back then, was it?
I think it's a shopping list, really, like half a dozen eggs, a loaf of bread, isn't it, really? But no, I know what you mean, Gav. It's just changed dramatically, hasn't it, really? I mean, you know, I think they've sort of made a rule this season where only the manager can stand at the front of the technical area, can't they? But, you know, sometimes, I mean, not particularly at Forest, but other clubs I've seen, you know, like 3 or 4 congregating around the managers, so, you know, having to make a decision. I mean, sometimes I sit next to Frank Clark at the game and he can't believe it, Frank. You know, he said the manager should be making the decisions. So he's probably right. You know, he said, what, you know, why does it need 3, 4, 5 people to make a decision? Yeah, but that's the way football is now, and just got to get on with it, haven't we?
I mean, pretty much they try and put the cart before the horse these days, but it was the manager that always pulled that team through, and Johnny Carey pulled you guys through in 1967, and then you went to entertain Tottenham Hotspur in the semi-final.
We did, 11, without Joe Baker.
Yeah, 21 days after, yeah.
Yeah, we didn't. You know, we lost 2-1 to Tottenham. You know, they were our jinx team at the time. We could never beat them. I don't know why. Jimmy Greaves, I mean, remembering that game, I don't think he'd had a kick for about half an hour. And the first kick he had, of course, it's in the back of our net.
Yeah.
That was Jimmy, wasn't it?
Yes, it
was. Prolific goal scorer, wasn't he? Absolutely wonderful goal scorer, yeah. He got to be in anybody's team, hadn't he, really, Greavesy?
I mean, Jimmy Greaves shouldn't have had a number on the back. He should have had a health warning for the defences, shouldn't he? You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Oh, listen, a nice guy as well. Really. I met him on 1 or 2 occasions, and really nice guy, and wonderful goal scorer, wasn't he? Really, absolutely brilliant.
So from elation at the City Ground, really to deflation, wasn't it, against Tottenham Hotspur?
Oh, Yeah, very. As a kid growing up, Gabby, you watch the cup final, and when I was growing up, I think the first one was in the early '50s, and you just saw the crowds and the elation, all the razzmatazz that went with it. You think, cool, it would be great to play in a cup final. So, when we got that so close that time, and got beaten in the semi-final, as you quite rightly said, it's a massive disappointment. It really was, yeah. But we had to soon get over it and make sure that we finished the season off strongly, which we did, I think, and managed to finish second in the league to Manchester United, of course, and they went on to win the European Cup the following year.
Yeah, 4 points behind them. Of course, it was 2 points
was
for a
it
win.
4? Was it?
Yeah, 2 points for a win in those days. And at home, you played United early doors, 1st of October '66. Crow hat trick and Wignall in a 4-1 victory. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, we didn't do too bad against Manchester United. It was a very, very close game there. I think they beat us 1-0 up, I believe, in
Yes, they did.
February time.
Yeah, 11th of February. Yeah.
And I remember after the game, it's never happened before, that Matt Busby came into our dressing room and he said, "Well done, lads." He said, "That's one of the best games of football I've seen." He said, "We'd like you to come up into the boardroom and have a drink with the director." He said, "Because we're very, 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 very pleased with your performance and how you conducted yourselves. We thought it was a great game, etc., etc. We'd like you to come at the room and have a drink with the directors," which was a wonderful gesture from him, and of course, I eventually went to Manchester United, had more to do with him then, but great man and very successful.
But again, that's the mark of a great man, isn't it? You go in the dressing room, you congratulate the opposition, win, lose or draw, come and have a drink. You are a fantastic team and anybody's equal. Sadly, he didn't get over the line in the league. Sadly, he didn't get over the line in the FA Cup. But going back and how that cup run started, it started on the 28th of January against Plymouth in a 2-1 victory at home.
I didn't play, Gabby. I was injured.
Wignall and Baker scored.
Who?
Wignall and Baker scored the 2 goals.
I remember watching the game. I think I was injured, actually. I missed that game, yeah.
And then
was Swindon Town the next one?
No, you played Nottingham. You are Nottingham Forest. You played Newcastle United.
3-0.
Yeah, you had a bit of form in Newcastle. Forest and Newcastle in the 60s and 70s. That was a bit tasty, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Games? Absolutely. Yeah, I remember we beat them 3-0, didn't we?
Yeah, you did. Wignall,
quite comfortably, really. Yeah.
Yeah, Wignall, Barney, and Baker. John Barnwell.
Yeah, I think I made all 3 goals that game, if I remember, because Alf Ramsey was at the game, and I think I was chosen for the under-21s in a not too distant future after that game. Yeah.
Because you certainly were on the radar. You played for England in 1970 against Holland and Johan Cruyff. That was Johan's first taste of Wembley as a Dutch international player. And you had a goal disallowed, didn't you, that game?
I did, yeah. I think I had a couple kicked off the line. So, I was a bit unfortunate in that respect, yeah. And then, of course, within, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 weeks later, we were playing at Manchester City. And unfortunately, I sustained a really bad injury, and I don't think I played again that season. Yeah, it was a rather late tackle from a gentleman called Arthur Mann, who was at Notts County at one time. Yeah, but it was a nasty injury, and really disappointed to have received that. And of course, it put a dampener on my England career. I mean, I was due to go to the World Cup, and whether I would have played is another thing. But it would be nice to have gone and been included in the squad. Yeah, just to have been there would have been an experience.
Absolutely. Off the pitch, British Steel was nationalised.
Really?
Charlie Chaplin's last film was released. A Countess from Hong Kong. Sergeant Pepper, the Beatles released Sergeant Pepper.
Okay.
Yeah. Ronald Ryan became the last man hanged in Australia. I always think it should be hung, but it isn't. Grammatically, it's hanged, isn't it? Yeah.
All right. Oh, blimey. Yeah, crikey. Yeah, I didn't know that, to be honest with you.
and the first North Sea gas is pumped ashore at Easington, East Riding of Yorkshire.
Really?
Yeah, so there was quite a few things going on off the pitch.
That was 1967, was it?
1967. In the hit parade in 1967, we had 14 number ones. So there was a lot going on off the pitch and on the pitch. Back on the pitch in March of 67. You played Swindon. That was a mammoth tie, wasn't it?
Yeah, three games, I believe it was, wasn't it? Yeah, 1-1 at home.
Yeah, away.
No, sorry, 0-0 at home. Yeah. 1-1 there. Villa Park, I believe, wasn't it? The third one.
Yeah.
And was it 3-0? Was it we won?
Absolutely. Your memory is absolutely fantastic. Ian.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, I remember that game. I remember playing against a lad called Rod Thomas. I think eventually went to Derby. It was a bit of an awkward sort of opponent. Rod. He was so tall and gangly, but he had these. You think you'd gone past him, and he stuck one of his long legs out and pushed the ball out for a try. But I got to know him quite well. Actually, a really nice guy actually, and he eventually went to Derby, I think, didn't he? And of course, he won't be playing. I know he's not playing now, but yeah. So yeah, there were three very interesting games actually. Yeah, they had that good play, didn't they? Don Rogers, who was a very good player. Yeah, Don, yeah, excellent. And he caused us a few problems in one or two of the games, but I think eventually I think our prowess as a first division club, finally came through, and we won the third game rather comfortably. Yeah.
Because were they a third division team? They were when they won. Yeah, when they won the cup in '69 against Arsenal, the League Cup. They were a third division team, wasn't they? Because in '67, QPR were the first third division team to win the League Cup by beating West Bromwich Albion. But drawing them out that you must have thought in your own heads, blimey, this is a nice easy one, isn't it? Third division. We're in the next round.
Oh, yeah, they were decent, really, at that level, absolutely. The first two games were pretty difficult, so we're certainly pleased to get that one out of the way, yeah. So after that, it would be, was that the quarter final after that, was it? Everton?
So you got third round Plymouth, fourth round Newcastle, fifth round Swindon, and then it's Everton. So when you've drawn that Swindon ball out there, you're thinking, oh, we are quarter final against whoever, and here we go. We're going to win the FA Cup again, because teams do think like that, and players do think like that, don't they? You do get carried away.
I think a lot of it's more in hope than expectation.
Absolutely.
Isn't it? When you get to get so near and yet so far, really, don't you? It would have been fantastic, But yeah, really massive disappointment. Absolutely, yeah, not to get there, yeah.
And in the League Cup, you got knocked out in the second round.
Did we? That season?
Yeah.
By whom?
My team.
Birmingham?
Yeah, Birmingham City.
Was it Birmingham?
Yeah, Birmingham City.
Thought it was.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I thought that as well. Blimey.
Must have thrown a bad one in that night.
Yeah, but again,
what division would they be in then, Gabby?
66. I would imagine Birmingham would have been a second division team. Because Blues have always been up and down, a little bit like a yo-yo. A little bit like a puppet on a string, which was number one on the 8th of April, which was the same day that you played Everton. Did you watch the Eurovision Song Contest at all in those days? Was that part of your celebrations?
No, absolutely not. No, I heard it. Yeah, I knew the song, of course. Yeah. But no, I didn't watch it. To be honest with you, yeah, I think we're so delighted to have got beaten Everton that day. But I think we were probably celebrating that night.
Other things that went on: Muhammad Ali refuses military service in Texas.
Was that 66?
Yeah, 67. And Priscilla and Elvis got married, and of course,
did they really?
Yeah, Celtic won the European Cup. The average, the average house price. Have a guess how much the average house price was?
I'll tell you what. In 1966, 67.
Yeah.
Let me have a guess. I would say about 2,500.
3,840.
Really, was it? Yeah. I remember my first house was 4,000 actually. So that was 68. Yeah.
A gallon of petrol, 27 pence.
How much?
27 pence.
You're joking.
Nah,
Oh,
20p
what
for a
was that in
gallon.
old money, by the way?
5 shillings and 2 pennies,
How
which
much?
5 shillings and 2 pennies,
Gee,
which
blimey,
translates
Christ.
to 27 pence.
Is that
And
what
a
it is?
Mark II Ford Cortina, £750 for a brand new
Oh,
car.
God. Can't we get back to those times?
I would love to get back to those times. It'd be
Oh,
fantastic.
God. Oh.
And the Grand National was won by an outsider.
Oh, I know that. I know the winner. Oh, God, what was it called? 100 to 1 chance, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was,
Oh,
yeah.
no, God, and I've got a name defence after it, and I should know that. Oh, blimey, I remember it, yeah. Oh, Foynaven.
That's the one. Yep,
Yeah,
Foynaven.
yeah. It just came to me there, yeah. Foynaven. Was it 100 to 1?
100 to 1, yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think they've named the fence after it now, haven't they?
I don't know. I'd never
I
heard of
believe
it.
they have, yeah.
Yep,
I'm not sure, but I think they have.
I was never a horse person, so when
Mm-hmm.
I looked at it, I thought, well, I'll have a look at who won the Grand National, and
Mm.
Please Release Me was the highest selling single of
Mm. Was it really?
1967.
The Beatles.
Engelbert Humperdinck,
Oh, Christ, yeah, of
yeah.
course, yeah, sorry, absolutely,
Or
yeah.
in other words, Jerry Dorsey, because
Jerry
he
Dawes,
changed his
yeah,
name, didn't he?
yeah.
No,
No,
four
that
days
was,
after 4 days after your season finished,
yes.
you played Barcelona.
We played them in a friendly game. We
Yeah.
went on a end of season tour to, yeah, Spain, of course.
Mm.
We played Barcelona, which won 2-1, actually, believe it or not. Yeah, I
Yeah.
remember
Can you
that.
remember the goal scorers?
I can't, no.
Wignall and
I can't.
Lyons.
Oh, was it really? Yeah,
Mm.
blimey.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was. Oh, Christ! I mean, first thing that struck me when I walked in the dressing room, how big they were. Compared to what was in the first division at that time. Some were rather pokey, but they're absolutely massive. The dressing rooms and the pitch, of course, and the stadium. It was absolutely fantastic. And then we went down to play Valencia
Yeah, he
actually,
did. Yeah.
and then had a few days in a lovely place called Sitges, which it's a bit of a holiday and a couple of games, for I think in sort of recognition of having a decent season the club. So it was nice end to the season actually, yeah.
Going back to that Barcelona game, can you remember some of
Mhm.
the players that you played against? I mean, were
No, do you
Barcelona
know?
the team that there wasn't back then the team that they are now, are they?
No, I don't think so. To be honest with you, I just couldn't remember one of the players. To be honest with you, Gary,
Mm.
no, no. But yeah, I think it's certainly one of the better clubs in Spain, which they always have been, haven't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well
yeah.
supported. Yeah, I think it was a decent crowd there night for a friendly game, actually, 60,000 or something, yeah.
And again, great,
So, yeah,
great experience, isn't it?
yes, it
Going
was, yeah.
because again in those days it's commonplace for teams to go and have end of season tours now, but
Mm,
not it wasn't
that
so
was just to
prevalent
make
back then,
money.
was it? Mm.
But I think they have ended season tours or pre-season tours. That's to make a lot of money, don't they?
Yeah, it is.
America, Australia. That's the only reason they go now, isn't
Yeah,
it?
sell shirts.
Certainly the Premiership teams, isn't it? Really, it's
Yeah,
just a question of how much they can make, isn't it? You
absolutely.
know. No, it's all about. I think as we talked about it earlier. I mean, the Premiership's now it's just all about how much money we can make, isn't it?
Sadly,
Yeah,
it is all about money.
yeah.
Football has never been awash with so much money. But back
Oh,
in
not in
your
the
day,
Premiership.
I mean, there was 3 hat-tricks the weekend. You scored a hat-trick back in 1967. You never even
Hmm.
got the match ball. Forget about signing it. You never even got
No,
it, did you?
absolutely. Oh, you don't ask for the match ball, and you certainly don't give your shirt away. You'd have to take the money if you out your wages to get another one.
Times
Oh,
have
and
changed so much, haven't they?
when you see when they score a goal now and throw the shirt into the crowd, take the shirt off. Oh God! You should, just to put your hand up, didn't you? Jog back to the halfway, and it's, oh well, I've done
Yeah,
my job.
yeah.
Yeah, there's no statics about it, was there really? It's racing around the pitch and jumping into the crowd with the players and taking your shirt off. Oh dear. Some of them go a bit over. Oh, and these dance routines that they have now, don't the routines of dancing? Oh dear, I mean it's gone too far, hasn't it?
I think they spend as much time practicing the goal celebrations as practicing and honing their skills. Could
Yeah,
you
how to score.
imagine it back in the day of Shankly, of
Oh,
Busby, of Clough,
Fluffy.
of Doherty?
Oh, God. Oh, God, they'd slaughter them, wouldn't they, really? Yeah. Oh, my word, they would. Yeah, Cluffy would, wouldn't they? Absolutely, yeah. he had some great one-liners, didn't he?
Oh, could you imagine, Clovey? Young man, I pay you to score goals, not to prance around after you've scored them.
Yeah, oh, that's, I mean, I remember being in the dressing room when I went to Derby that weekend, just for the weekend, when I was close to Simon, he's giving his team talk for they were playing Wolves that day. And his team talk was very simplistic, Gabby.
Yeah.
That's your job. That's your job, McFarlane. That's your job, Colin Todd. Webster, that's your job. John O'Hare, Hector, you get me a goal. That's your job. Very simplistic, nothing technical about it, and that's... the European lads winning team, that's how they tell me he was like. Nothing complicated about tactics or anything. Didn't watch the opposition, didn't work on free kicks, and that was it. Get out and we play how we play, and that's it. End of story.
But isn't that the best way?
Well, I would have thought so, but now, I mean, you just see the stats on the television, don't you? During a game, after a game.
Drives me mad.
How many yards has he run? How many shots at goal has he had? How many touching the opposition? But it drives me bonkers, to be honest with you. Yeah, I mean, most people can tell have got a decent view about football, whether somebody's playing well or not, can't they? God, dear, it doesn't take a rocket scientist, does it?
No. No.
You mean you know yourself when you've been a player. If you weren't playing well, you don't need anybody to tell you.
Exactly. Browne was a simple man of simple words and simple tactics.
Absolutely, yeah. I remember Martin O'Neill went to see him one day, Gabby, and he'd been playing him in the reserves week in, week out. So Martin went down to Cluffy's office and knocked on the door, and he said, "It's you, is it, Mister?" He said, "It's you, is it?" This is Browne to Martin. He says, "What do you want, young man?" He said, "Gaffer, just come and see." He said, "I wonder why you keep playing me in the second team." He said, "That's easy, son." He says, "Because I haven't got a third team." So really, it's quite a funny man, actually, Cuffy. I fell out with him over the Derby thing, but I still had a great respect for him, what he did within the game at Forest. Yeah, absolutely.
But it wasn't so much you fell out with him; he just wouldn't speak to you after, would he?
No, he completely ignored me. I walked past him, within 2 or 3 yards, and he wouldn't even look at me. No, absolutely not. And it wasn't my fault. So there we go. That's football. I think some people thought I engineered it all, but far from the truth. It was embarrassing, to say the least, that weekend. Absolutely embarrassing. Yeah.
But you're going back to how he looked at the game of football in simple terms. When I watched that, I Believe in Miracles, going back to the Miracle Men, Kenny Burns, I was talking to Kenny Burns, and he were on about free kicks. And he said, what we used to do with free kick, Cluffy would say, if it's direct free kick, just kick it. And so what we do if it's an indirect free kick, he said, we pass it and then we kick it.
He's very simplistic. Yeah, really was, but I know Kenny, that great guy, Kenny, and of course he turned out to be a wonderful servant for Forest, didn't he? Great player and a great lad, actually, Kenny. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, I don't think he's been in the best of health lately, has he? But
do you?
I don't think he has, but he's okay now. I think. Yeah, there were 2 little problems, but he's okay now, Kenny. Yeah.
And do you still go down to the City Ground as a guest these days?
Yes,
Ian?
I do. Yeah, I mean, to be fair, the chairman, I think he's just resigned. Actually, chairman, he's still at the ground. Nick Radley's been absolutely excellent with us. Some of the old players like myself, Gary Birtles, Frank Clark, John Barr, we still go down, and we get invited in the boardroom. Nice to be before the game, and the ticket in the director's box. So the hospitality's been absolutely first class and much appreciated. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And of course, the manager's been absolutely fabulous, Steve Cooper. What a lovely man he is, and all the old lads, we wish him well and his staff. He's got some really great lads working for him, and all really nice people. And Steve, he invites us down to the training ground anytime we want to go and have a bit of lunch there. What a really nice man. A really good. We watch the trade. He's a really good coach, Steve, and we wish him every success that he deserves.
That's absolutely fantastic, and I think that a football club always should remember their former greats. That's what
Well,
we
I think
do.
he's Well, I think he's taken that on board, Steve. I mean, he hasn't just blanked us. A lot of managers would come and say, "Oh, well, I'm
Yeah,
not bothered about the past," and etc. etc. But no, he's been absolutely brilliant, Steve. With the old players like myself and I say Gary and Robbo and Colin Barrett, all that crowd, John O'Hare, Frank Clark. He's been brilliant with us, and so we have on every Thursday we meet up at in West Bridgeford in Nottingham there and have a chat for a few hours. The old timers and and with the gentleman Johnny Owen that wrote the We Believe in Miracles that made the film for that. Another great guy, Johnny. He's been
yes,
he's on the board at Forest. He's been
yeah,
absolutely fantastic with me and appreciate all he's done for me. A really nice guy, and his partner actually is Vicky McClure, that wonderful
yeah.
actor who has been in featured in a lot of BBC stuff, and she's absolutely brilliant. And we actually went to their wedding the other week. Yeah, they had a wedding in Nottingham, and which was absolutely brilliant. So. Yeah, really two great people, two very, very pleasant people. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, you do meet some really nice people within football. Yeah, I mean, there is some, the odd horrible person, but generally, most of them are very, very nice people.
Absolutely fantastic. Ian, it's been a tremendous trip down memory lane,
Yeah,
remembering
yeah.
66, 67. All the very, very best for your book.
Thank
And
you.
we will reconvene and we'll do another podcast. We'll look at your 11, Ian
Yeah,
Storey-Moore's 11. So we'll do a few podcasts. And
absolutely.
the book is
Anytime.
out, guys, on the 23rd of October. And you can buy it and you can pre-order it online at Amazon or
Mhm.
anywhere that you access your book. So,
Yeah,
Ian
yeah,
Storey-Moore, my lord. Ian Storey-Moore, what a player.
yeah.
Thanks, pal. It's been an absolute
Yeah,
pleasure
yeah,
taking a trip
yeah,
down memory lane
yeah,
with you.
yeah. Yeah, you're more than welcome, Bobby. Thank you for your kind words, and yeah, let's hope one or two people have it in their mind to buy the book. I hope they do, and I think it'll make an interesting read. Absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. Thousands should, because you were an absolute star to thousands,
Thank you
Ian.
thanks very much, Gab. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Cheers, pal. God bless you. And I'll speak
Cheers, mate.
soon. Cheers, Mucker.
Okay, Gabby. Take
Ta-ra.
care, Bill.
Thanks,
Give
Ian.
my regards to Terry, won't you? Yeah.
Will do.
Great,
Will do.
great guy, great play. Yeah, so please do. Yeah. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, pal. Speak soon.
Welcome. Ta-da, mate.
Ta-ra,
Ta-da.
mate. Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye.